Good, thank you. Thank you all for coming. And first, thank you to Dag and Laird for carving out the time for us to do this. We know it's a busy time, but if you don't have fun and you just work hard, life becomes a burden. So that's what we're here for. And so at this time we're going to time travel a little bit, and we'll start in Italian Baroque. And we're not going to reveal the program, just to leave a sense of surprise and discovery. And the program is quite emotionally rich, so it will throw you off a little bit. But the pieces are very easy to understand and appreciate, so it's good. We'll start with Tartini, Giuseppe Tartini,
yes,
who lived in Italy
in the 17th century. And he was one of the finest violinists of his time. And in fact, he was known to be one of the first people to own one of the famous Stradivarius violins. Although it probably wasn't worth $1 million when he got the first one off the assembly line. His piece that we're going to play is a trio sonata. And normally that would be 2 violins and a cello, but the cello was too expensive, so we just left them at home. So it's just going to be 2 violins, but it worked really, really well because Tartini was very interested in acoustics, not so much spatial acoustics in a room, but on the actual instrument itself. And so one of the things that he exploits in this piece is making the 2 violins work really, really closely together. There's this thing that he was working on discovering called sympathetic vibrations, which is where if you play one note on that instrument, it causes another note to sound at the same time. I'm going to attempt to do this. So I'm going to play a really low note, and hopefully you'll hear some of the higher stuff go. You know, ringing like that. And so what Tartini does is he puts 2 parts together in a way that makes a lot of that happen automatically. So we're going to give you a little demo. First we're going to show you when it doesn't work, and then we'll show you what it does. So,
when it doesn't work?
yeah.
Okay.
We practiced it last time.
Same bar though.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work at all. So what's going on there is the 2 parts are a little bit too far apart from one another. So what Tartini does is he squishes them a little closer together, and it'll sound like this. And so what you're hearing is a lot of good sounds all mixing together and sort of amplifying each other. So this is a trio sonata by Tartini, and we're going to play the allegro movement of it.
to step back a little bit and talk about music and the beauty of music in general. So the way we listen to music is quite different, and there are mainly three ways. The very first one is that we listen to music as a background noise, which we do most of the time. The second type is when we notice how our brain associates different images probably just different images with music, and it creates a sort of like a book effect or a movie. And the third way is the most, I would say, architectural way, is to analyze the structure of the piece and the patterns and the proportions that piece has. And it's quite different from what we used to listen to, but we'll try to help you learn how to do that, because it's difficult to hear, but easy to see on the piece of sheet music, because you could literally see the patterns that are repetitive or how they are proportionate. So the best composer to practice this architectural style of listening is Johann Sebastian Bach, who lived in Germany in mid-18th century. He would be called the most architectural composer, and Beethoven even said, not a Bruch. In German, der Bach means brook. But the sea should he be called because of his infinite, inexhaustible richness in tone combinations and harmonies. And his approach to music is very scientific, and even now scholars study his music from the mathematical point of view. And they, for example, they put his canons transcribed as mathematical functions, and then put those mathematical functions into a parametric software and created buildings. So you could see the actual Bach Prelude No. 1 or something. So there's structure and geometrical proportion that underlies all the arts that are appealing to us, and that's what I found is in common in architecture and music. For those who appreciates Frank Lloyd Wright, he actually said, music and architecture blossom on the same stem, sublimated mathematics. Mathematics as presented by geometry. And so we're going to explore how his piece is built on the structure of the main themes and some sub-themes and how they interlace.
Yes. So in the two pieces that we're going to do by Bach, they're from the same concerto, and they both employ the same kind of techniques as far as construction. With the first movement in particular, there's three main ideas that you'll hear coming back as if to support the whole piece all the way through. And so the first one that you'll hear is just this little run up a scale where you're going to hear like this, and we pass it back and forth. And sometimes it'll be lower, but it's always going up and up and up like that. The second one is this sort of a leaping theme, which is like that. It looks like we're working really hard, but it's not that bad. And then the third one is he loves these little arpeggios, and if you look at most of his pieces, he loves to do this kind of thing where you just go constantly going up and up and up all the time. And so those are the three main underpinnings of the piece. And then in between that, he uses the technique called counterpoint, where the two voices are not moving so much together anymore, but we're doing separate things. It's like we're having a dialogue, but we're saying things over top of one another. So we're just going to show you a little bit of that, and then we'll play it. Which is very slow, and if you close your eyes while you're listening to it, it'll take you someplace.
Oh, I forgot to mention, the Bach himself, like you can read the bio and Google, it's fine. But how many children, how many wives he had 20 children, by the way. And the most important thing about this man is he was a very religious man, and the whole goal of his music was to please the God and bring the glory to God. And that's why his goal was not to impress his contemporaries, and he was not appreciated in his time. Just like many architects did at that time, they tried to bring the divine proportions in their practice. That's for the next time. So to wake you guys up a little bit, we decided to play some tango, but not just any tango, but a nuevo tango, so-called. It's a fusion of classical music, jazz, and tango, like a traditional Argentine tango, composed by Astor Piazzolla. Quite a not very popular composer, I think. But anyways, he was born in Argentina, but when he was 4, he moved to New York with his family. And so he got exposed to tango mainly through the recordings of the tango. But he just combined everything that he liked, and he liked classical music, jazz, and tango. And we'll see what happens. It's not much to talk about this piece, it's just a pure passion.
Surprise piece. We're not going to tell you what it is, but you'll probably recognize it. It combines a lot of things we've already been talking about. Yes. It combines a lot of things we've already been talking about, including an element from the classical time called a cadenza. I'm going to be laying down a nice big solid D, and she's going to be improvising in a thing called a cadenza, where she's going to be taking lots of time with tempo and so on. And then the harmony of this piece is quite different from what you've heard even in the tango. You're going to hear some Middle East and Far Asian types of things, so if you think camels and snake charmers, that kind of thing, you're on the right track. And then finally, my job, once I get into the main part of the song, is to lay down a really heavy Western kind of groove. So here it is.
It's casual.
How did you know?